Preventing injuries while at Cape May. This is an unfortunate reality. Injuries do happen, and unfortunately some are more severe than others. I'm going to do some videos talking about how to recover from injuries if they do happen, and what happens if you get injured and can't recover. But for today's video, we're just going to talk about ways to prevent getting injuries while you're at basic training. Number one is to stretch. This is pretty obvious for anybody that's into physical fitness. Stretching is a number one way of preventing or reducing the chances of getting injuries. Unfortunately, in basic training, you're not necessarily always going to have the opportunity to stretch before you work out. So I would just suggest taking the time that you can, take advantage of that time to stretch, get your muscles loose. Even if it's just a matter of taking a couple minutes during a 5-minute break between classes and doing a couple stretches out in the quarterdeck, just to kind of keep your muscles from getting stiff, because you will be working out a lot while you're there. Number two, hydrate. Drink a lot of water. This is true outside of basic and inside. And you will have the opportunity to drink water. You'll have a water bottle. You will be highly encouraged to drink your water while you're there, so don't worry about that. Just make sure that you are drinking it. Number three, eat. Much like water, nourishment, caloric intake, very important for healthy body, and you have to be able to rebuild those muscles that you're breaking down through all that training. You're only going to be able to eat 3 times a day, 3 meals. Make sure that you are getting everything that you need during those meals. And as I've mentioned before, you can get up and get more food during your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So just keep that in mind. Number 4, pre-train. So before you get to Cape May, you want to already be in shape. Don't go to Cape May thinking, hey, this is summer camp, I'm going to get in shape while I'm there. I highly recommend getting in cardio, strength, and endurance shape before you go out, to minimize the shock factor on your body, so that when you get there, your body doesn't go into some kind of shock because it's been stagnant for 2 years and all of a sudden you're doing all this heavy work. Number 5, pace yourself. Now, I know that this might not seem like highly encouraged while you're there, and I'm certainly not saying don't go hard, don't do what your CCs say. You certainly should, but most of the exercises there, the incentive training, it's not going to be how many push-ups you can do, aside from the PT test. But for the IT, it's just the endurance and being able to hold a plank, being able to hold a squat position midway. It's a lot of awkward movements, a lot of awkward holds, and you have to have strong muscles, obviously, that are used to those sort of movements. When you're doing these workouts, make sure you're being deliberate and focused and not necessarily trying to go as fast as you possibly can. For one, you're going to burn yourself out faster, which is going to make you collapse faster, which is going to make the CCs get on you faster. And 2, just the controlled, consistent, steady movements is going to be much better on your muscles. It's going to greatly decrease the risk of sustaining some kind of injury while you're doing those exercises. And finally, number 6, communicate. Communicate with your CCs. If you are hurting, if there's something not feeling right in any way, let your CCs know. Don't be ashamed. Don't worry about getting ridiculed or criticized. And don't worry about the fact that it might hold up your training, because it might, but you need to be honest with them. Don't aggravate it worse, because if you decide to ignore that arm injury, or that little soreness you feel in your chest or in your shoulder or whatever, if you choose to ignore those signs and you continue to train, you could aggravate and injure yourself far worse than what you're already at. The best case scenario is you go to medical, they treat you, you get back into training as soon as possible. You might get held up a couple weeks, you might get rephased to a new company, but at least you can continue. The worst case scenario, if you aggravate an injury, you could do irrevocable damage to your body, and you might not be able to finish training. So listen to your body, be honest, communicate with your CCs on where you're at, and don't be ashamed to be honest. Anyway, those are 6 tips for avoiding injury while you're at Cape May. Wish everybody the best of luck if you're getting ready to ship out. Take care of yourselves, and talk to you soon.